So much fun with Matthew. His dad called him Matthias, and
We're talking about Matthew Miller here.
yes,
I'm
we
taping you
are.
again.
And Christina died of
Death?
Lou Gehrig's disease, of Parkinson's. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
She died of Parkinson's.
So many people have died.
And I don't know, but I'm kind of proud of Eric. He sounds so good.
Mm-hmm.
And we sent that thing, my color story down.
Right, I did.
And he was so tickled with it because of the fact that his three best friends in there are
Black.
colored.
Yep.
And so, well,
That's neat.
yeah. I keep thinking my mammy, whom we considered the beast, that awful. But she acted like a beast.
How so?
Hmm?
How does she act like a beast?
Well, she tried to deprive her son of everything he really wanted to do.
Huh.
And I always felt she thought she married beneath her station or something.
Oh, are we talking about your dad wanting to go into the Navy?
My father's mother. Mm-hmm.
That's what I didn't catch. I thought that was related to the story you're talking
No.
about. Like, it was like...
Oh.
No, she was just a beast in general.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Because her brother drowned, right?
her brother died when he was 16 in the brook because he didn't know how to swim.
Mm-hmm.
And consequently, she was determined not to let my dad go to sea, and that's the only thing he wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
was to go.
Now, didn't he go around her somehow to get permission?
Yeah, she turned down an appointment to Annapolis,
Oh.
which he didn't find out till years later. After he had enlisted,
Mm-hmm.
he had gone to officers training school
Mm-hmm.
in New London, Connecticut, which is where he met my mother because she was in the university college there,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
Her whole family was against her marrying a Navy man because they have a girl in every port and so forth. But the other thing is, at the time that they met, he was engaged to be married to a gal from New York State.
No kidding.
And then he found out that her family, her father, expected him to get out of the Navy and go take over the family business.
Oh, no joke. Just like in
And
It's a Wonderful
no
Life.
dice. That wasn't going to happen, and so he broke up with the girl.
Huh.
Just about the time Mother came into the picture, so.
I had a boss who met his wife on a bus going down to Florida, and she was actually on her way to see her fiance. And she ended up getting married to the young man on the bus that she hit it off with.
Those stories are funny, but they do happen.
Now, as far as Grandpeg goes, one of the things that's always fascinated me is she apparently did a lot of community service stuff. This is stuff that no one ever told me when she was around.
No.
So, what are some of the things that she did? I know she saved a family from going over a cliff in a car, correct?
Yes, she did.
Hmm.
Well, one of the things, a lot of it, she was determined to drive across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had given her strict instructions to sell the luggage trailer, not to try to drive across with 4 children all by herself.
Mm-hmm.
And he had driven from California, the southern route.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Susie book was written. But he tried, there was no telling her no. She was hot rod granny from the get-go. She was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning we left Brockton, my grandmother was a total mess. She was so worried. Finally I said, Grandma, if anything happens, I can drive. I know how, and I had been out all summer at this day camp that my friend Jean Melcher's family ran, a day camp.
Mm-hmm.
and I'd been driving around out there
Oh,
with
how old were you at the time?
14.
Cool.
Actually, Mom had really taught me to drive on the drill field at
Nice.
Ford. Anyway, and we had a flat tire, and she made me change it right away myself.
Yeah.
In those days, you could do that. I could never do it now. But she was determined to drive, and so when I told my grandmother that I did know how to drive and I could drive, and I've said this several times, I felt her just melt into a puddle of relief.
That's funny.
And the first night we spent in New York State, and it was 4th of July, and we were in a rented room, sort of,
Mm-hmm.
and there were firecrackers going in every direction, and there was a cat trying to get away from the noise, and he was climbing the screen outside, and he kept scratching it, going, "Rawr!" Nobody got any sleep that night.
That's funny. So, I remember you telling me that when you were up until you were, what, 22 or 23, you pretty much moved every year of your life?
I pretty much what?
Moved every year of your life?
Mm-hmm.
So you started by being born in Manila in the Philippines.
Actually, we moved about within 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The Army, they moved people every 3 or 4 years, and most of the Army kids got sent away to boarding school.
Oh, no kidding.
Mother wouldn't have any part of that,
Wow.
thank goodness.
Oh.
The Navy, I will have to say, took the best care of us, and sometimes too good.
Mm-hmm.
They would never let a woman whose husband was out at sea have to stay home from a party or anything. They'd find her a date, be sure she was taken care of.
Yeah.
Which backfired a couple of times. Mother got a little too, And
That's funny.
well, I remember, and not only that, but all the teenagers who were around when their parents were gone or father was gone had a party
Mm-hmm.
given to them by the Navy.
Oh, well.
When it was time to move the family, they moved us. They found us a place to live. They found us native help. So the native help was almost always colored.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got very used to that and liked it that way.
Neat.
And that story about Annapolis that day, and I remember thinking after that, gee, I'd love to have a black mammy living with us. I just thought that would be great.
Neat.
But the gal that was at home when I got there that day, I'll never forget her. I know we called her Cindy, but I have no idea what her name really was.
Mm-hmm.
When Dad was at the hospital, Mom had postpartum blues.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and
That was after what?
she had had Kendall.
Oh, okay. That Kendall was the
And-
youngest.
Ann was down in Philadelphia with Mammy, with grandparents. So he had hired this gal, and she was tall and good looking and very sweet. And I think we called her Cindy. I don't know what her real name was.
Yeah.
But when I got down the hill, she took one look at me. I was worried halfway down the hill. I stopped in my tracks and thought, oh, she could be called black too. I had never.
After seeing that little girl throw a rock at the
and
little
I
boy.
had never in all the years before that heard anybody call our help black.
Mhm.
Never.
Yeah.
And I just stopped in my tracks, and I remember thinking, what am I going to say? How can I tell her? Well, I had to go home, so I went up the stairs, and the living part of the house was up there, and it was built on the hill, so she just took one look at me and scooped me right up.
Sweet.
She held me in her arms and kept me there until I could talk to her and tell her what happened, because I
Wow.
didn't know what to say. And she was so wonderful.
Neat.
And I just...
Now, how old were you then? Maybe 7 or 8 or something?
7.5 because I was a brand new Brownie Scout and I was so proud of it. And I'd been allowed to go to my first meeting up, and it was up a couple blocks.
I
around.
remember that from your story.
Yeah.
Neat.
Well, I'd been allowed to go on my own because it was a straight run up the hill and half a block or so around the bend. What am I doing?
No, I just wanted to give
You're
this.
taking pictures of me while I'm doing this.
I'm
Of course you are.
videotaping this. Yep. Hold on.